Hello there. In this video I will be walking you through my 6th attempt at recreating wooden armor. The opening portion of this video shows the armor being constructed. If you don't have any interest in that, you can skip ahead to the test at 9 minutes and 55 seconds. I begin by cutting some slats out of a piece of hardwood. I believe the wood is red oak. Here we see the cut slats. The worst one will be discarded. By cutting the slats in half, I can get 2 test panels for the price of 1. I sort the slats by which end they're cut from. I discard the worst slat from each panel. Now I begin lacing the slats together. To begin with, I wrap the cord all the way around the slats. This is to hold them in place and make it easier to weave later on. Now I weave the thread back and forth between the slats. I'm using an antler needle to help me out here. From previous tests, I've found weaving rather than tying to be the superior method of construction. Instead of weaving over the entirety of the panel, as I had done previously, I am attempting to do the weaving in bands. This is an attempt to more closely replicate the illustration. spite of my previous assertion that weaving is the superior method of construction, I seem to have forgotten what I was doing here. And done. Well, what do you think? Does it look more like the illustration than my fifth attempt? Well, I've bored you long enough. Let's get on with the test. I don't know why I feel the need to leave every shot in. Here the arrow struck the board parallel to the grain and cracked it. The arrow penetrated about an inch. The armor would have saved my life. If I were smart, I'd use the power of editing to make myself look like Robin Hood. At least I know I'm a lousy shot and I'm honest about it. This was an antler-tipped arrow. It struck the board, cracked it, and bounced off. This is the reason for the binding. It prevents the boards from being split. Here the arrow struck a gap and penetrated about 3 inches. The armor would not have saved me. This is a major problem with the armor that I haven't been able to solve. Another antler-tipped arrow. Again, it cracked the board without splitting it and bounced off. This answers one of my questions, whether the reduced binding is still enough to prevent splitting. I now try my hunting knife. I don't expect it to pierce the boards. I'm mainly using it to see how much of an issue gapping is on this style of armor. Turns out it's a pretty big issue. Struck the board directly here, hardly goes in at all. Using the spear to test if the reduced binding is enough to prevent splitting. The spear is much better at splitting than the arrows because of the amount of weight behind it. An arrow has 1/10 or 1/4 of a pound mass behind it. The spear has 180 pounds of mass behind it. The spear struck a gap perpendicular to the grain and penetrated about 1/2 inch. It also bent the spear quite badly. An easy fix for someone like me. The spear struck one of the cracks left by the arrows. It penetrated very deeply. The spear struck the other crack this time. The spear struck a board directly, parallel to the grain, and split it open, penetrating several inches. Now the hatchet, just to see if the boards can be cut. To cut a long story short, the boards can't be cut, but the cords can. This armor performed well enough. Not so well as my 5th attempt, but better than I expected. One issue that was much worse was the gapping. I'm going to have to come up with something for that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.